Welcome back to this week's episode of Catching Flies podcast. This is a very special episode we're doing. It's going to be our first non-sports or sports entertainment related episode. In prior episodes, we had talked about doing different things that we enjoyed, whether it be a podcast on music or a show. And this one happens to be a show. Today, we're going to cover the wildly successful show How I Met Your Mother. It was one of my all-time favorite sitcoms. I know you enjoyed it heavily as well. The show ran while I was going through high school and was in my early 20s, and really inspired me in a lot of ways, believe it or not. Some of the crazy stuff in it me and my friends had done. We try to stay together like they are, a close-knit group. All right, before I dive in too deep, I want to bring on the Greek philosopher, the man who may be one of the few people that knows more about the show than me. And Petey, I know you love this show. Give us a rundown on it.
Yeah, thank you, thanks, Stephen, for the intro. Welcome, everybody. Catching Flies podcast. Branching out a little bit here.
Yeah.
We're taking a huge risk here, as far as I'm concerned. No, it's pretty easy for us to do, actually. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Those of you who normally tune in for sports talk, here lately it's been football, Super Bowl season and all that. And we wanted to talk about some entertainment as well. We our end of the year podcast, we kind of split it between sports and entertainment, and we want to look back at a show that it was a very good show, How I Met Your Mother. And before we deep dive into the show, just quick one to talk about how I got into the show. It was Monday Night Football, Colts Steelers. I had to go back and look it up, and the Colts were taking care of business pretty well. The game was kind of meh. So I just started hitting up and down on the remote to see what else might be on. And, ran into the show, and I'd seen commercials for it during Sunday football games on CBS. And I'm like, okay, give it a watch. And for those of you who are fans of the show, it was the Pineapple Incident episode. I believe that's even the title of the show. And I was drawn in by the storytelling. Non-linear storytelling in this episode anyway. It was a lot of episodes too. A little bit of information at a time. It's like you think you know the story. Oh, nope, something else happened, and they fit it all in about 22 minutes. It was great. So, yeah, it's a good show. It is one of my favorites. Wouldn't put it in the upper echelon, and we'll get to why later. But the premise of the show, of course, is 5 friends living in New York City. So kind of sounds like another show about friends living in New York City. A lot of people compare the two together. I think the creators of the show welcome the comparison, or probably a little honored by it. For whatever you think of Friends, the show, it was a phenomenon. It was a huge hit.
Wildly successful.
Yeah, wildly successful. And of course, ratings being different in the 90s than they are now. More people watch Friends. That's just a given.
Sure.
TV ratings aren't what they used to be. But for comparison's sake, How I Met Your Mother was certainly, in a contemporary sense, a very highly watched show, and it lasted 9 seasons. That's pretty impressive. They probably could have gone a little longer. Jason Segel, the actor who played Marshall, was basically the linchpin. He didn't want to come back for a 9th season. They almost ended it after 8. If he wanted to come back for a 10th, I think they would have done one. They would have rearranged the way they did the 9th season, and we'll talk about the 9th season. But good show. You mentioned you were in high school. Those characters were the same age as me as the show was running, so that was kind of fun. The last time that happened to me was Beavis and Butthead. Those guys were the same age as me when that show came out, so that's interesting. Of course, that being in the 90s, so I was a early teen back then. But yeah, being the same age as them, having lived in New York City myself as well, not at the time of the show, but when I was in my earlier 20s, that was always kind of fun to compare and contrast my experiences with theirs. So I brought up Marshall. He's my favorite character on the show. Who was yours?
Um, well, Marshall's a great pick. He's kind of the one of the main characters that they did just such great storytelling with. Personally, I always got a kick out of Barney and his antics.
Yeah.
Uh, whether it was the laser tag stuff or picking up chicks and just all the silly stuff he did. You can't watch the show and not laugh, in
Right.
my opinion. And like you said, the storytelling drew me in. I liked how, they would be telling a story and then there'd be a flashback or, just a lot of like a lot of curveballs kind of out of
Mhm.
nowhere, so to speak. And you think you know what's going to happen and then bam, something totally different. And what I loved about it too was it showed that a group of friends could really, be a tight knit group, and at the end of the day, they loved each other and was always there for each other. And that's how me and my friends have tried to be, so to speak. So I just saw a lot of ourselves in these characters, and like you said at the time, it was huge. It was number one show on cable, and uh, it was kind of
Syndication, yeah.
my generation's friends. I mean, I grew up as a kid with Friends on and remember watching it. And I mean, that show was huge. Like you said, Jennifer Aniston inspired a hair phenomenon,
Right.
for God's sake, across the country, like our world. Um, but that's what I always say about How I Met Your Mother. Is my generation's friends. The only thing that can come close to it, in my opinion, is Big Bang Theory. But
Whole different show.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I loved Barney and his antics. Ted, I've kind of seen a lot of myself in him as far as kind of a hopeless romantic that
All been there.
I haven't got it right yet, but still hoping and trying to find that one right person. So I really love the show. I've rewatched it 3 or 4 times completely through. I started doing it again and thought, hey man, let's do a podcast on this. It's a
Yeah.
it's a funny show. There's so much we could talk about, and yeah. So,
Yeah.
but
We're not going to
I'll
get to
let you take
everything.
off.
Absolutely
Right.
not. Yeah,
No,
that
yeah.
would be a very long show. Yeah, Barney is certainly the character I'm most entertained by.
Oh yeah.
You'd think the shtick would grow, but Neil Patrick Harris is so freaking good at what he does
He is.
that he just continues to make a lot. I think a lot of different actors could have made that character work for a season or two. For him
Sure.
to give that character 9 seasons of life and mostly maintaining the tenets that made the character what it was in the first place is just a shining example of his immense talent. And him being in the show was what even wanted me to even give it a shot because
Yeah.
everyone knows him as Doogie Howser. Oh, I knew him first as Doogie
Right.
Howser. I think some other people knew him as a Dr. Horrible. I think Dr. Horrible. That sounds familiar. Maybe memory's not that great anymore. But
I always remember Doogie.
he had a couple other things going for him. He was in Harold and Kumar Do White Castle, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, or maybe the how they lost their car. I can't remember. My memory's not so great, but he had dipped his toe into certain. He was certainly known to the Broadway audience as well. And I don't know if you ever. Well, he sang on the show before,
Yeah.
and just he is a phenomenal singer too. So what can't you do,
Definitely.
Neil?
Right.
Okay, damn. It's like stop being so
Yeah.
talented. Let us have some.
Yeah,
But
there's
yeah,
there's 3 or 4 different times that I can think of right offhand where he's singing like an operatic or a like a show tunes type
yeah,
of
and
song
that's his
about a
style.
suits, for instance.
Yeah,
And he's incredibly talented.
yeah,
Like, and I always thought it was funny that he was, in real life he's a gay man. And on the show was such a ladies'
all
man,
right,
and like,
man.
and he
That's
made
called
it
acting.
work,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, he made it work so well, and I just always got a kick out of him, though.
Yeah. But when it comes to me, when it comes to Marshall, so when I'm watching anything, I want investment.
Sure.
I want to I want the empathy for that character. I want to feel what they're feeling. And Marshall did that most with me. He might be the only one that really got me in. every time, because just like, even early in the show where, he's trying to, well, the first episode of the show, he's trying to get a proposal to Lily and going through school and all that stuff. And, just because I've done those things as well, I have proposed, I have gone through school and work at the same time and whatnot. But even if that wasn't the case, I would find myself invested in him because of his demeanor, because of his passion for whatever it is, even like the episode where he's trying to remember his password for the
Oh yeah,
to get the bar
bar
results.
exam.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And even that, he puts his whole heart into it,
yeah.
and when something bad happens to Marshall, even like something goofy bad, I'm like, oh, it's like I feel it for him, when something happens to Marshall, I'm like, yeah, go Marshall, like when Barney takes his place in the marathon, I felt so bad for him, but if that same thing happened to Ted, I wouldn't have felt as bad. And I'm gonna get to Ted. We're gonna get to Ted. He is the protagonist of the show. The show is called How I Met Your Mother. We're talking about Ted, and but yeah, Marshall's my guy. We don't get too deep into too much of the emotional stuff that happens to Marshall on that show, because it does hits home,
Oh
hits home
man.
hard. It just kind of took me back as well. Can leave it at that. Um, but yeah, anytime something was happening in Marshall's life, I was more intrigued, and that's important. You want a good, strong cast. I mean, some people would say a show like Seinfeld, uh, it's called Seinfeld, but he was maybe like not most people's least favorite character on the
Yeah,
show. I think George was clearly the
the
goat of that
Kramer.
show. Yeah, Kramer, Elaine. I'm not a huge Seinfeld fan.
Me either.
I haven't seen every episode like I have How I Met Your Mother and a bunch of other shows. But yeah, anytime I've watched it, it's all Costanza to me. So having the supporting cast and not just relying on one main character, especially when that guy wasn't as known. I mean, Josh Radnor, the actor, wasn't. I'd never heard of him until the show.
No, I don't know if I've
So
seen him in anything since.
yeah,
To be perfectly
he's
honest,
indie guy. He likes to get behind the camera as well. He's not
not
in
that he
big budget.
probably
Yeah,
needs the money. I mean, I'm sure they've
no,
made plenty of from
oh
the
yeah,
show.
yeah. He's more of the artsy guy. He's not
Okay.
looking for lead roles in movies or anything like that. Good for him. Follow your passion.
Yeah.
Speaking of Josh Radnor, not speaking of Ted. Ted always followed his passion
Yeah.
wherever it led him. Yeah, but Marshall gave me that investment, and I just love the goofy side characters as well, man. Like I love Ranjit.
Oh, he's
I
so
love Wendy
good.
the waitress. Just this little
Hello.
hello. Yeah. I think he's the only character, and I could be wrong. Please, someone correct me if I'm wrong. Other than the main cast who have appeared in every season, so yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
like one episode at least in every season. So even Carl the bartender, I don't think was able to pull that trick.
Well,
So
they switched to I believe they switched bartenders from the beginning, but I can totally see how you could relate to Marshall, like you said, without diving in too deep of stuff, personal stuff. Like, there's been very few shows, and I'll admit this, even as a guy, that have ever made me, kind of choke up,
mhm.
tear up. I've gotten a little softer now that I have a little, a daughter and everything, but still, even when I rewatched that episode where Marshall's so excited because he just found out him and Lily are gonna have a baby, or that his sperm was okay.
Yeah,
He'd
he's
been
okay to have a
freaking
baby.
out,
Yeah,
worried that it was, they couldn't get pregnant, and he was worried it was his fault. Basically,
yeah.
he gets all excited. He finds out, the doctor calls as Lily pulls up in a cab and gets out, and you could tell, like, in her face that something's wrong, and
Mm-hmm.
he's so excited. Lily, it's okay. We're gonna have a baby, and everything's fine. And when Lily looked at him and said that line, man,
Yep.
just gives you chills. And his reaction, and what you told me, I'd never knew this, that they had told Jason Segel, this is your line. We're not going to tell you what Lily's going to say because we want your authentic
Uh-huh.
reaction.
That's a true story.
Lily is going to finish her sentence
The word
with
it.
it.
And
And
when she says
after
it,
that, it's
stop.
all you, buddy. Whatever you feel. And the emotions that he conveyed,
Uh-huh.
really, without it kind of, whoa, hit me a little there. uh the emotions he conveyed without saying anything, and just his facial expressions and everything, man, it just, and at that point, you're a few seasons in, so you're drawn into the
Mhm.
characters. You feel like you're a part of their group almost, and you know how much Marshall's dad means to him.
Yeah.
And when she says what she says, man, it just breaks your heart. And they did a great job as after that episode of making it more comedy and whatnot. But man, the emotions that they could make you laugh, or they could bring you down just the lowest you could feel. And that's why I love that show so much, man. It was just incredible storytelling,
Yeah.
and that's what I love, a good story, man.
Me too. I don't care. And this is more of a movie thing than a TV thing. I don't care what your special effects look like. If your story stinks, everything stinks. It can look
Agreed.
phenomenal, and I won't care. So yeah, as far as storytelling goes, I did mention early on in the pod that it's one of my favorite shows of all time. I never could quite crack into the upper echelon. And the reason why is kind of a big deal. So I'm going to talk about that. I'll let Steven react to that.
Sure.
I it's funny to say this. I love the show, but I didn't like the overall premise. And let me explain what I mean. Uh, Two things. One is the general idea that the showrunners seem to put out there that the only way that happiness is achieved in this world is to find your so-called soulmate. So at the beginning, you have to believe soulmates exist anyway. And if you do, okay, that's probably up your alley. And if you don't, it's probably not up your alley. And the whole Ted has a very successful life.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Architect.
an architect, a professor, great
Built the youngest
friends,
guy to build a skyscraper in
right?
New York. Like,
Probably. I remember
yeah,
the
yeah,
the
probably.
toast. Probably. That was one of Robin's funny. We haven't said Robin's name yet this whole time. It's funny.
Right.
But and he's young, healthy. He has a number of relationships. Maybe they don't end at the altar, but a lot of people would look at Ted's life and feel like he's doing just fine.
Definitely.
And he didn't, because the one thing that was missing in his life, and if this is a goal of his, that's fair. Settle down, find a wife, have kids. But it would be seem that if that didn't happen, everything else would be a failure. And I don't think that's a healthy message.
No.
Um, Personally speaking. And true happiness is always found internally. If you need someone else to make you happy, this is general life advice, anyone who's listening. If you need someone else to make you happy, then you need a little bit more soul searching on yourself, because you got to make yourself happy first. Anybody else that wants to come and supplement that happiness is awesome. Don't get me wrong. But it should be supplementary, not, or complementary even, not the initial start point. So, and the other thing is just Ted. And nothing wrong with hopeless romantics. I've been in that phase before. It might always be there and just maybe slip out from time to time. But this dude coming up to women like he's going shopping with his little grocery list, and I just never got down with that. And I was hoping by the end of the show, when he finally found his mother, or when he found
His
his
kid's
children's
mother.
mother. Yeah,
Yeah.
that came out wrong, but his quote unquote mother, that she wouldn't actually check off those boxes, and he would still find the essence of what he was looking for. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe she don't play bass, maybe she doesn't do the crossword puzzle, maybe she doesn't
Yeah.
paint, or whatever, all the things that,
Those were the
yeah,
requirements,
those
like
would
you
have been
said.
nice to see those not there, just
Right.
so he wouldn't find someone perfect, because there is no such thing as perfect. There's perfect for you. I
Sure.
can get down with that, and I say that with the knowledge that Kristen Milioti, the actress they got to play the mother, just absolutely blew my mind. She was
Perfect.
perfect. She really
Perfect.
was. She was perfect for that role. I'd only ever seen her in Wolf of Wall Street, I think, at that point. She had a very small role. She was Jordan Belfort's first wife,
Sister or
uh,
first wife. Yeah.
early in the
Definitely.
movie, and then she didn't really continue on in the movie when her character wasn't needed. But Yeah, she just knocked it out of the park. She, in my mind, saved the final season like on her own almost. And so it was a conflict there between like I didn't want her to be Ted's perfect girl on the checklist portion of it anyway, but she turned out to be a perfect character almost, and almost makes you wish she was around for the whole show. But yeah,
Yeah,
I guess maybe it worked out the way it did. But I say those things, and that would normally sink a show for me. But because everything else was so strong, and I was invested to a degree in every character. Marshall was my clear investment. He was like my cash cow, and everyone else was my little subsidiary, if you want to use financial terms. But and in certain episodes, I could watch over and over and over and over and over
oh
again.
yeah,
Just, I mean, like even like an episode like 3 Days of Snow, which is probably my favorite
yeah,
episode of How I Met Your Mother, with the storytelling device, and you don't even know what day it is until the end. Who's on
right.
what day? It's called 3 Days of Snow. Just per that last scene in the airport with the All Lang Syne and the
Playing the
orchestra,
yeah,
Lily and all. It's just wonderful. Just one. It was cheesy but wonderful,
right.
and the cheese paid off because of everything that led up to it. So I went off on a little rant there, but yeah, the
No.
overall premise of the show didn't settle with me. And that's what kind of lowers its overall esteem. I recommend the show. I think it's a great show. I enjoy the show. I can go through another watch through as well. That wouldn't be difficult for me to do. But that was my sticking point. And unfortunately it's a big sticking point. But uh give us some overall impressions. Would you I think you have a little higher esteem of the show than I do. Um, hit us with it.
No, I'd never thought of the show in those terms before until you had mentioned it to me,
Mhm.
that just because you don't have your soulmate doesn't mean that you're like a failure in life.
Right.
Because like he's a successful architect. He graduated college. He had great friends. He had other relationships and stuff, and he seemingly had everything, but all he wanted was the love of his life and to have kids. And it definitely did send that message. But there's other overarching
Mhm.
themes too that kind of that made it more important to me. And it's just a super special show, man. Like if you need a good laugh, if you need a good cry, even like you can get everything from this show. And you'd mentioned the 3 Days of Snow. One of my favorite episodes is Slapsgiving, and so what that is Marshall and Ted and had met, or Marshall and Barney
Yes.
had
Mhm.
made a bet, and the winner of the bet got to slap the other person 3 times or 4 times whenever
Whatever.
they
Yeah.
wanted to.
Yeah.
Any
The terms
no,
always
there,
changed.
yeah, they did a little, but it was like basically you're allowed to slap the other person at any point in time, and the other person can't do anything about it, like no retaliation. And the way they incorporated that, and then Marshall's like, I'm gonna give this slap to Ted because he has a rough year. He'd gotten left at the altar, and then Ted's like, no, I'm gonna give it to Robin because she had a rough year. No, no, I'm gonna give it to Lily, and they keep passing it around, but it brings them
Poor
all
Barney.
closer. So at the end, Barney's sitting there thinking, "Oh, okay, I'm not gonna get slapped today. Thank you, thank you." And the timing was so perfect because like as soon as they have what they call a slap throne, which is just a chair, but as soon as he gets up and turns around, Marshall just throws a haymaker and screams at slap. So he went from thinking he was gonna get slapped by everyone to not get slapped at all, and then gets laid out. And then
Yeah.
Jason Segel was incredible musically. He's playing the piano, and it goes back to Neil Patrick Harris again, Barney singing.
Yeah.
He's like, "You
You
just
just
got
got
slapped."
slapped.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
Whoa.
whoa! Like he's doing all that. He's got a big handprint on his side of his head. It's so funny. But yeah, I mean, it's just from that to all the crazy shenanigans that Barney has in the playbook, which is a book he uses to pick up chicks,
Yeah.
wearing different outfits, telling insane lies. Obviously, women. Now, one thing the show did do, which today they probably couldn't quite get away with, is they kind of made women look stupid. But
all
you
people are
know,
stupid to a degree.
you're right. You're
All you
right.
gotta do is find the lowest common denominator, and you'll find someone stupid in every aspect of life. But yeah, I hear you what you're saying.
From wearing scuba gear into the bar to just insane after insanity after insanity when it comes to his ploys. But I liked how they did turn that story into the story of how he got Robin. He called it his final play,
Yep.
and and you could tell that meant something because how much that book meant to Barney, because he
Yeah.
was New York's playboy. He wanted to sleep with every girl in New York
Yeah.
seemingly,
Mm-hmm.
but he was willing to give it all up for Robin. And the way they told that story was just super funny. So many good laughs. But where do you think they? Let me rephrase that. So now in today's time, 2023, they have a new show, How I Met Your Father.
Uh-huh.
It's not quite as big or
No.
successful as How I Met Your Mother yet. They've done one season. They're in the midst of season two on Hulu. Uh, some of the characters are in it briefly, kind of cameo type
No.
appearances. But do you think this new show will matter as much to, say, the generation under me? Will this, you know,
I would
teach
find it.
them
I
the
would
same
find
life
that very
lessons?
difficult to have the same impact. But the existence of that show alone tells you how well How I Met Your Mother did.
Right.
Um, so yeah, How I Met Your Father is kind of what it sounds like. It's just a role reversal. The main character, I can't remember the characters' names on this. I have watched
Sophie,
season one. It's Hilary Duff is the actor. Sophie,
Sophie,
yes. Hilary Duff plays the lead. She plays the Ted character. She is extremely charming.
yeah.
She is the
Same
only
bar.
thing. Yeah, she is the only thing really that kept me through the first season. Um, yeah, she is. She was. I haven't seen her in too many other things, but in this show, she was, like I said, the best word I can use to describe her is charming. And yeah, I'm rooting for her. Season two, I'm probably not going to keep up with it when it comes out, when it's all done. Might binge it the way I binged season one. But no,
Well,
no, How I Met Your Mother was lightning in a bottle. It shouldn't have
I,
worked really because it was a Friends ripoff. And even if it was or
uh,
it wasn't, that's the way everyone was going to perceive
yeah.
it.
Instead of a
And
coffee shop, you had a
yeah,
bar.
yeah,
Instead,
yeah.
same number of guys as girls,
Just one fewer
same
girl. Yeah,
overarching thing. The one character loves the other character, but they're friends. They don't want to mess that aspect up. But
yeah. But
uh,
and it's fine. And they made it work, and they made it their own.
yeah,
The one thing you're mentioning that when Barney goes ahead and gets Robin, I couldn't remember her name, gets Robin to agree to marry him. That scene is one of my favorites, and the reason is the song. And the song they were playing is called "Let Your Heart Hold Fast." And How I Met Your Mother did music better than
perfect.
any show ever has, and probably ever will. So it's not just them singing because they can all. And Lily, Allison Hannigan is probably not the best singer. She's better than
Sure.
us, I'm sure, but the rest of the four are all very talented musicians.
Right.
If you don't remember singing Ted singing Super Date,
Yeah.
that's all him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, he did great.
yeah, and Robin did all of her Robin Sparkle stuff. That's all her. I'm gonna say this
That's
out loud. I'm gonna say this out loud. Sandcastles in the Sand is a freaking great song. Okay, it's a great song.
that's
It shouldn't
some of the
be.
funniest stuff of the
Yeah,
show
but it's
was
also it's like
It's
if you
Robin Sparkles 3, y'all.
yeah. But like I saw like that, Sandcastles says actually like touching and emotional and
No, it
funny
wasn't bad.
because she can sing and they can all sing.
Even the
So
"Let's Go to the Mall," it's so catchy. Like it's terrible, but
it's
it's
terrible, but it's
catchy
catchy.
80
Yeah.
pop. Like it's perfect. Like
Yeah. So that the fact that they used a bunch of songs from non-famous artists, like indie songs, This Modern Love, it was played at the end of season one when Marshall and Lily had their breakup, was perfect choice. Um,
Neon Rose, I think it's called, where Ted hears his future wife playing on the mandolin.
They're playing La
singing
Vie
out
en
there.
Rose. Yeah,
Love,
La Vie en
okay, love
Rose
you.
is that one. Yeah,
Okay, that song,
yeah. Just like songs you
incredible.
hear in the background. There's one girl I can't remember their good, but they sound like the Beach Boys. But then they also bring in some more mainstream songs as well. Back on the Chain Gangs, right in the first episode. Uh, the way they incorporate their music. I mean, it's like they're Star Wars of TV. I mean, Star Wars with John Williams and that score kind of was the rug that tied that whole thing together. And How I Met Your Mother to me was the same. Their use of music, not from just their cast, but their music selection and the fact that they didn't just go for all well-known songs. I look at a show like Breaking Bad that did something similar too. And I have
Yeah,
to imagine they got some kind of inspiration from How I Met Your Mother. And there's connections between those shows, let me tell you. The only reason that Mike Ehrmantraut exists on Breaking Bad is because Bob Odenkirk had How I Met Your Mother commitments and couldn't appear on an episode of Breaking Bad. So they created a
wow.
whole new character. But that's a whole different, that's the rabbit hole. We're not going to
Yeah,
dive into that right now. Um,
I forgot
yeah,
about Brian being
yeah, Bryan
the lead
Cranston was
architect.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Brian
Bryan Cranston
Cranston.
was in How I Met Your Mother. Bob Odenkirk was in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, this Better Call Saul, that guy. He's
That's
a
it.
Marshall.
That's the
Yeah,
that's the Saul Goodman. Yep. And
yeah.
so
Marshall's boss.
right. Uh, I can't remember the character's name right now. He was just always angry. This
Yeah, he was
guy.
always screaming and firing
He
everybody.
loved his dog, and that's it. But yeah, How I Met Your Mother did that with the music, and their tertiary characters were all great. I would highly recommend the show. Highly recommend it. I mean, it's really for all ages, male,
Yeah, there's no
female. Yeah,
profanity
there's
or
something in there for everybody. I mean, maybe if you're too young, if you're, I don't think if you're not quite 12 yet, it's not going to have an impact on you.
right.
Even that young age, you might find it entertaining, but the impact it'll have on you is best at the, I would say, 17 to 45, 18 to 45 range. Not to say that you can't be over 45 and enjoy the show. You absolutely can. If anything, it might feel like a flashback. So that might even be a whole different kind of enjoyment
Right.
for you. But I highly recommend it. I've given it some criticisms, and I think they're founded criticisms, but I would
Very
highly
fair.
recommend it. I would highly recommend it. Check it out, binge it. I'm not sure where it is. Is it Netflix?
On Hulu
Hulu.
is
Okay.
where I watch it.
Okay. Um, it aired on CBS. I'm sure they have it somewhere in their purview as well. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the show. I did enjoy it. Wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did when I first started watching it. It got really good for a while.
Really
It
good.
got really good. Like season 3, 4 was like peak, and it
Oh
was
man.
still good after that. Season 9 was iffy, except for the mother centric episode, which just
Right. They just
exploded on me. It was so
tied
good.
every
Yeah,
yeah, tied everything together
yeah.
finally.
It
It
was like a
had
mini
gotten a
movie.
little,
Yep.
yeah, it really was. But it's supposed to take place over the course of like 3 or 4 days, and it lasted 20 some episodes. Like
Yeah.
that's how great it was.
Yeah, they were ready to call the show in season 1. Victoria was going to be the mother if they couldn't get a second season, and they
Really?
just yep,
Wow.
and they kept getting renewed. So yeah, definitely comes highly recommended. I'd give it like an A minus B plus,
Yeah.
for sure. And it's not quite into Cheers, Frasier, Big Bang Theory level for me, but no other show is, so don't feel bad. Those are my
No.
Cheers and Frasier are just above
You,
everybody else. I mean, like,
your
I'm
peak.
off screen, my hands are so high. Um,
Right.
so that's my thoughts on it. I'll pass to Steven for his final thoughts, and then we'll leave you alone for the day. How about that?
No, there's going to be definitely 3 or 4 shows, maybe 2 or 3 shows that I show my daughter when she gets to be a teenager, and this is definitely going to be one of them. Uh, this and Big Bang Theory have probably been the two most prevalent shows in my lifetime, as far as like this type of show. A huge fan of the show Supernatural, but that's a whole another world, literally. But this show meant a lot to me. It's pulled me out of some tough times, given me some terrible ideas at times in my early 20s. But overall, has given me so much pleasure, so much joy, and has shown me ways to appreciate my friends. And it it just really instilled with me the people that you care about most, whether it's your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your friend, whatever, you know, they're the most important thing, and to always be there for the ones that are there for you, and to love the ones that love you the most, like because not everybody has three or four friends like them,
Right.
or have three or four family members like them. So if you do and you are blessed enough to have that, just appreciate them, enjoy that. I think about, like, Ted's always trying to cheer Robin up, even if she's dating other guys, or if he, whatever. Be like that. Be Ted. There's nothing wrong with that. Caring about somebody, even if it is a girl or a guy. There's a line, obviously, you want to respect, but there's nothing wrong with being there for somebody as a
No,
friend,
never.
and really trying to help them out. So that's kind of what the show taught me. We wanted to give it a huge shout out because I started rewatching it, and it's so many good times, so
Mhm.
many laughs, and there's just a lot of great life lessons that can be taught from this show. And I don't know that there's another show like that in today's time, or maybe there'll never be another show like that
It
again
might
that
not
is
be.
as good as How I Met Your Mother, or uh, Big Bang, or even, like you said, Cheers and Frasier were classics. So, but I'm definitely going to show Kylie when she gets of age this
Yes,
one,
let her
because
get a
I
little
think
older.
there's a lot of, yeah, yeah. When she's like 17, 18, maybe 16 range, I'm going to show her, and because I think there's definitely a lot of life lessons that can be learned in a funny way, but in a like a mature, important way too at the same time. So this is one of my all-time favorite shows. We'd love to debate anybody. Message us, like this video. If
Please.
if there's any other show you want us to
Subscribe.
be to deep dive on, Ted, Lily, Marshall, Barney, and Robin will forever hold a spot in my heart.
Yep.
Like, that's how much it meant to me. And Jason Segel kind of quit doing the show to go off into more movie based
He's
things,
done
and he's
well.
definitely been
Yeah.
successful. But Neil Patrick Harris has hosted the freaking Oscars, or
Yeah.
I mean, like, the show's produced wildly successful people, and to the point where they're trying to recapture that lightning in a bottle now with the new show.
Yep.
So, but overall, I think this is a top two or three show of all time for me.
Cool. Excellent.
So,
All right.
if you like this video, if you like to hear more about this non-sports related things, comment,
I'll
like,
do it.
share,
Yeah.
subscribe. All right, Pete, want to take us home?
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening to us. Do that social media thing. Catching Flies W1 on Twitter. I'm gonna say it this time.
Yeah,
Steve's our resident social media guy. I'm the more the technical guy. We make team in that way, but we really appreciate you giving this episode format a shot. And it's not our normal day of the week either. So that's some, we've talked about wanting to do something more than once a week. We hope there's a hunger for it, or at least a stomach for it. Um, we love what we're doing. We're having fun. This is just us, man. We just happen to have eyes on us now. This is just we always chit chat about all this stuff that interests us, and all we did was put camera to it now, and
just
you
pushed
get to listen
record.
in. Yeah. So it doesn't change. It's the same thing we always do. But I do want to thank everybody one more time. If I've said thank you too many times, then I'll say it one more time, because there isn't enough. There's no such thing as too many times to say thank you. So yeah, like, share, comment, subscribe. If you're a football fan looking for football stuff this week, or a sports fan looking for sports stuff this episode, hopefully you enjoyed this and would give us a chance if we do something like this again. If you didn't like it, I'm sure you know someone who would. So send it their way. And please, I'm gonna say it again, subscribe button. It's the lifeblood. That is the lifeblood. If you can do that for us, we would greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Anything else you got, Steve? That's it for me. Thank you, everybody.
No, like you said, just share, like, and follow. We appreciate you guys so much for listening, and look forward to talking to you next Tuesday. So until then, go catch a fly.